joining me today. We're going to be talking about 10 different ways that we deal with illness in our household to keep it from turning into a big, huge deal. And I'm going to be passing these tips along to you. 10 to 15 years ago, when the kids would get sick, I would just get so upset. Not really upset, but more just like I felt like I was maybe doing something wrong, or like the kids were going to be sick forever, and it just kind of sent me into a tailspin. I've had a lot of experience now dealing with illness. I have 10 children, and you know, this is just the time of year when illness is going to happen, and I've learned to accept that. And now I have this whole routine that I do whenever illness strikes. So I want to share that with you today. Number one, keep basics stocked. The worst thing in the world is having illness strike and then not being prepared for it and having to run out to the store when you have sick children. It has happened to me more often than I would like to admit. And so now I keep some basics stocked, and that way when it happens, and it's always going to happen, I'll have what I need. Whenever an illness is over, I try to take inventory of everything that we've used and get it restocked so that next time I'm prepared. So things like Vicks Vapo Rub, or an essential oil counterpart if you prefer to go more natural, Gatorade, saltine crackers, let's see what else, cough syrup, ibuprofen, Tylenol if you use Tylenol, you know, just all of the things that you use and that you're going to use up. Try to have those on hand. It makes life so much easier to know that you are prepared and to not have to leave the nest when illness strikes. Number two, and this is more of a mindset thing than a preparation thing, but illness takes as long as it takes. There's really no speeding it up. You just kind of have to hunker down and get through it as comfortably as possible. This was one of the areas when I was a younger mom that I spent so much money trying to you know, buy herbal remedies that would cut the time of a cold in half, and you know, I don't know, I spent so much money. I wasted so much money because none of it ever worked, and then I ended up feeling like a failure. I felt like, you know, I'm not natural enough, or I'm not, you know, I don't know enough about herbs and all these things. Now, that's not to say that there are not herbal remedies that are helpful in alleviating symptoms. I'm just saying that there's really not an herbal remedy that's just gonna like stop something in its tracks. And if it does, it was probably more that you have a great immune system than it was the herbs. So stop chasing that magic fix and just realize this is gonna take as long as it's gonna take. Now, I do have several herbal remedies that I love to use, and I keep those on hand. I have several different loose teas, especially for respiratory type things, that, you know, are very helpful, but it's not something that is gonna make it go away faster. And so if that is what you're hoping and wishing for, you're gonna end up being upset or let down, or just feel like you wasted a lot of money like I did. Number three is quarantine if possible. Now, what I mean by this is if you have one or two kids that are sick, try to keep them in their own room or a room together so that the whole family doesn't end up getting it. Now, if your kids are all very young, you're not gonna be able to do that because you have to be able to keep an eye on them. But if they're like 7, 8 years old, they can stay in their room, and you can just go in there, and when you leave, wash your hands really well. And this really is a great way to keep things from spreading through the whole family. Now, sometimes that's not possible. And in my family, if like half of the kids are sick, it just makes more sense to keep them downstairs where I can take care of them down here. All of our bedrooms are upstairs, so if I'm having to go up and down the stairs constantly to take care of 5 different children, well, the other 5 children that aren't sick are really not gonna get much of my attention because I'm gonna be spending so much time in travel. So in that case, when I have a bunch of people sick, I keep everybody in a central room so that I can just go in there and take care of everybody's needs. But if you're able to quarantine, it sometimes does help, as long as everybody that is in quarantine and the person taking care of them are committed to the process of hand washing and good hygiene. Number 4, rest, rest, rest. Now, this goes for the sick people as well as for the caretaker, as for mom. Rest is super important in the healing process. So that means no running around being crazy. You don't get to just, you know, keep doing the same activities that you were doing before. This also means not playing video games constantly or constantly watching things on TV. That's really not resting. Also, it's important for mom to rest, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but mom is the one who is taking care of everybody. And if mom gets sick, the whole ship goes down. So it's important that you slow the routine way down. Reading books and coloring are much better ways to rest than playing video games, and even things like building forts really should be out. Okay, number 5, stay warm and cozy. So there's a lot of old wives' tales around staying nice and warm when you're sick, and I have come to the conclusion that that is actually a really important piece. Now, one of my daughters watches all of my videos, and she is probably howling with laughter right now because I generally keep the house pretty cool. I run pretty hot, and so I like to keep it cooler. But what I'm talking about here is keeping your body warm. So making sure that you're dressed appropriately to stay warm. So that usually means layering a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, even a sweater or a sweatshirt on top of that. It means warm socks on your feet and pants. There's no reason to be running around in shorts when your mom keeps the house at 65 degrees. Sometimes it even means a hat if you're having trouble holding in your body heat. Now, if you're running a fever, you're gonna want to dress in lighter cotton clothes until your fever breaks, but otherwise you really need to stay warm. There are some people that even will wear a scarf around their neck if they have a sore throat, because it keeps that area where there might be some infection, it keeps it nice and warm, which helps your body to fight it off. So think about what a fever is. A fever is an elevated body temperature, and your body does that to fight off infection. And so heat helps your body fight everything off. That's kind of the train of thought. So staying warm and cozy is part of that. Okay, I want to take just a quick minute to tell you about something that I have available. I have a illness checklist pack for sale, and it has basically my whole shopping list of things that I like to keep on hand in case of illness. It has comfort measures for things like stomach flu, sore throat, fevers. It has a home management checklist for keeping the house running smoothly enough in times of illness. And there's even an article that I wrote in there years ago about how to keep a stomach bug from spreading throughout your family and how to keep that from reoccurring. We actually had, this was years and years and years ago, but we had 6 weeks straight of stomach bug. People kept catching it over and over again because it's so contagious. So anyway, I will put the link for that below in the description, and I have a coupon where you can get it for just $5. Okay, number 6. Now this is kind of piggybacking on to number 5, but number 6 is lots of warm drinks and warm soup. So again, the whole idea here is to stay warm, and the warmth from the tea, it's really good if you have a respiratory thing. It helps to loosen everything up. It's soothing for your throat. If you put honey in there, it's an extra bonus. And the warm soups too. It's liquid. It's easier to digest. It keeps things, all of your body systems are well supported when you're taking in a lot of warm drinks. Now, this is not warm, but this is something that I have found that is extra comforting with sore throats and fevers, and that is orange juice. I don't know why, and I've been craving orange juice like crazy this whole pregnancy, but orange juice, it has the vitamin C in it, but it also has potassium in it, which is really important for your body to function maximally. And so orange juice is something that I've started giving kids with sore throats and fevers, and it does seem to help and perk them up a little bit. Back to the warm and cozy drinks. If your kids don't like tea, my kids are obsessed with tea, and we keep probably 10 different types in stock at all times. But if your kids aren't crazy about tea and you still want them drinking warm drinks, try picking up a jug of apple cider and just heating that up to warm. That's a really great way to keep those warm liquids coming in, and the kids absolutely love it. Okay, so speaking of warm soup, I am going to show you now how to make a traditional Italian chicken pastina soup. It is so delicious. It is so nourishing. It's easy to digest. It has lots of vitamins and minerals in it, and it's so comforting. My 17-year-old son that has strep, well, he had it. His throat looked worse than any throat I've ever seen before. Like, it really looked so terrible and so painful. And he, got some antibiotics and went on those. But it takes it takes time to kick in. And so he wasn't wanting to eat anything. He wasn't wanting to drink anything. I made some of this soup and he ate it and said that it was the most comforting thing that he had ever had in his life. And he ate 2 bowls of it. So this really is a miracle worker soup. I'm going to show you how to make that right now. And I will have the recipe linked below in the description, so you can click on over and get that recipe as well.
Okay, I'm going to start by roughly chopping 3 onions, and you're going to be blending all of this up with an immersion blender or food processor, so it doesn't have to be cut into bite-sized pieces. I like to use the leaves of the celery because they provide extra flavor for the soup, and it'll all be, again, pureed up, so you don't have to worry about any weird leaves in your soup. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel the carrots really quickly. There's George. He loves carrots. So the thing to remember with the carrots is the recipe calls for 6 carrots, but some of these were really tiny, so I just threw some extra ones in there. This is all very rough as far as what you have in your fridge. You can just make it work, and it all turns out fine. This is a more of a method of making soup than an exact science. Saving all of this for the chickens because they love getting fresh vegetables, fresh vegetable scraps, I should say, in the wintertime when there's nothing else fresh to eat. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my garlic out. I'm going to do about 20 cloves here. It's my giant bag from Sam's. So I put some oil in the pot. Now I'm going to dump everything in. Go ahead and let it start browning up a little bit, caramelizing. It takes a while because that's a lot of vegetables, but I'm just trying to separate the onions here. And I'll just keep coming back to it every few minutes and giving it a stir. Now everything's good, so I'm going to add in the 2 chicken breasts along with the broth, 4 quarts of broth, and a Parmesan cheese wedge, along with salt. Now the chicken is done. It's been an hour. And so the vegetables are nice and soft. And the chicken is done. So I'm going to remove the chicken and let that start cooling. Now remember, this is chicken breast with the bones still in and the skin on. So I'm going to let that cool while I blend up the soup. But first I have to find all of the bay leaves. It's a little bit of a treasure hunt at times. And also I have to pick out the cheese rind. This is one reason why it's important to know how many bay leaves you actually put in the soup. So count them before you dump them in. I don't always do that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and use my trusty immersion blender, which I'll link below in the description box, to get the soup pureed up until it's nice and smooth. This is so much faster than a food processor, and they're really quite affordable. I think I got mine for under $20. So I would highly recommend this little piece of equipment. Give it a little stir. And now I'm going to add a little bit more salt. This is kosher salt, about a tablespoon. And I'll also add in some dried thyme. I forgot to do that earlier. Normally I would do that as I'm simmering the soup, but it's okay. So I'm going to put a generous tablespoonful of thyme in there. You could use fresh. I just didn't have any. Give it a stir. And then make sure it tastes right. Sometimes you have to adjust your seasonings. It's perfect. Yay. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I end up plating this up. So first I'm going to add my shredded chicken back in. Give it a little stir. And my mom always used to plate things up in this way when we were sick, when she would need to bring us some soup to our bed. So I'm going to show you how she did it, and this is now how I do it for my own kids. So I get a larger dinner plate, and then I get 2 paper towels, or you could fold one larger one in half. You lay it across the plate, and you put your bowl on top. The paper towel helps to keep it from slipping, and it also makes sure you have a napkin. So I'm going to go ahead and ladle some of the soup into the bowl. Then after I do that, I'm going to add in some of the cooked pastina. Now this pastina, I actually cooked it yesterday, so it's a little bit lumpy. Normally it would be more separated, but I wanted to use up what I already had. So put the pastina in, and I'm going to grate some Parmigiano Reggiano on top. If you've been watching my videos for long, you know that we are obsessed with this cheese in my house. So I'm going to make sure to give a good shredding of cheese over the top of the soup. And then I'm going to do some freshly ground pepper on top. And I have a piece of sliced sourdough all ready to go. So I'm just going to tuck that in, and now it's ready to serve.
Okay, now that you have learned how to make the soup, let's move on to number 7. Number 7, and I'm just giving you a warning here, this is a little bit of a soapbox issue for me. Number 7 is stay home until you are not contagious anymore. Now, if everybody would just practice this, we wouldn't get nearly as sick as we do all the time. So I'm begging you, please stay home until you're not contagious anymore. But also, this is going to help you and your children get better faster. When you are leaving the home, you're getting cold. It's, the cold breeze on you. You're not resting. You're walking around doing whatever, and you're just prolonging the sickness. Remember, let's see, it was back at number 2 where I said illness takes as long as it takes. Well, that is true, but if you are constantly leaving the home, it is going to take longer. You can count on that. So stay home and rest, and don't spread your germs, please. Number 8, this is probably the most useful tip that I'm going to give you this whole time. Look into telehealth services. So we have been using these telehealth services where you call in and you talk to a doctor and they will send a prescription in over the phone. We've been using them for probably 7 or 8 years, ever really since it started. It's super helpful. It costs less than a doctor's visit. We're self-pay. We use Samaritan Ministries, so we're paying for a full doctor's visit whenever we have to go to the doctor. But it's so useful because you don't have to take yourself or your kids out into the cold and sit in a waiting room with other germy people. You can just make a phone call. They will ask you questions, diagnose you over the phone, or sometimes it's a video call, and then they will call in your prescription, and it's that easy. So we recently found one that is the creme de la creme of telehealth services. It's called, let me look at my notes. It's called Sesame Care, and I will link that also in the description box below. This one is absolutely the best. If you have a Costco membership, it's only $29. If you don't have a Costco membership, I think it's $39, which is still a huge deal. But basically, you get to set your appointment time. With a lot of other ones, you're basically just waiting for a phone call. So you have to kind of put your life on hold and just wait. But with this, you set your appointment time. You can pick your care provider. You can choose if you have a male or a female provider, which is important for some calls. They have reviews for the different care providers, and it's like a 5-star rating system. So you're getting the best, the best of all of the worlds. And they even have things for like dermatology. I think that there's a mental health section that you can use. There's the general health, the family medicine type stuff. But Sesame Care is really amazing. And I'm not being paid to say any of this. This is just something we found and I wanted to tell you about it. So I'll put that in the description below. Okay, number 9, keep yourself healthy. Because remember, I said earlier, if mom goes down, the whole ship goes down with her. So you need to be making sure that you are prioritizing your own rest and your own health. Make sure you're taking your vitamins. Make sure that you are drinking tea, because sometimes that, like the hot liquid, I think it might, maybe not, maybe this is old wives' tale stuff again, but it might help to kill germs, maybe. But make sure you're taking in enough liquid. Drink enough water, get some fresh air if you can. Make sure you're sleeping enough. If your sleep is interrupted in the night because you're taking care of little ones, get some naps during the day when they're napping. Like, you really have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're eating fruits and vegetables, all of the things that are really, really important, because seriously, like, the level of care will go down if you get sick. So you have to do this for yourself, but you have to do this for your kids too. Okay, number 10, and this one is very, very, very important in the realm of motherhood. Remember, mom, that you are your children's comfort. You need to have your game face on. You need to be sweet. You need to be comforting. You need to be attentive. You need to be kind. Make sure that you are smiling at them, even if you don't feel like smiling because you got no sleep last night. You need to make sure that you're taking a shower and that you smell good. You need to look like you are in charge of the situation, because, you know, if you have 4 or 5 little ones that are all sick and they're all counting on you, and you look like you are barely holding it together, your kids are going to pick up on that and they're going to feel even worse. They're looking to you to be their comfort. And so you need to rise to that challenge, and you need to be that to them. Make sure that you're reading them stories, spending time with them, putting a cool cloth on their head if they have a fever, talking to them, doing all of the sweet mother things that we all know that we're supposed to do, but sometimes we get too busy and we don't think we have enough time. You really need to prioritize that part of this whole care situation. Okay, so those are my 10 tips for getting through illness in the family. Again, I have the illness pack that you can purchase that has everything condensed into nice checklists that make it super simple. And I have a coupon there so you can get it for nice and cheap. I hope that you learned something today. If you have tips that I didn't mention, please feel free to leave those below. It's always helpful for all of us. And I will see you next time.